Sup, Nameless? 2020 is over, and I think I speak for all of us when I say, one more time. One more time. Come on, everybody. One more time. Hey, where are you guys going? If I were to describe 2020, then I would say that 2020 has been like that weird uncle who doesn't visit very often, but when he does, you have this uneasy feeling about him, so you stick around your family for the whole stay. Just that during 2020, due to social distancing, you are literally not allowed to hide behind your family, and so you would think that that would mean that your uncle wouldn't come visit either, but your uncle doesn't care about that, and he comes by anyway since he happened to be at a nearby anti-mask rally, and it turns out that when you get to know him, he wasn't that weird after all. He was just a weeb. I'm sorry, but what are you doing here if everything is fine? Because everything is not fine, because when I turn on the news after having shut myself in for a whole year, I see that he has killed millions of people across the world. So what you're saying is that your uncle is a metaphor for COVID, and thus your point is that, yes, COVID has been a weeb all along. No, 2020 has not been the easiest year for most of us, and that goes for the anime/manga industry as well. Not only was the roster for anime significantly slimmer during some periods, but even Shueisha issued some production changes which required the mangaka of their series to occasionally take breaks for a week to minimize the spread of COVID from having them meet with editors and such. This might actually have been the best change ever in my opinion. Like, the mangakas have probably had the best work year in their lives, and I would gladly get less manga weekly if that means preserving the mental and physical health of the mangakas themselves. I mean, work, peasants, work! Anyhow, to take farewell of the worst year in my life, and maybe even the worst year in you guys' lives as well, I wanted to shake off some of the controversial events within the anime/manga sphere that stood out to me the most, so we can leave all the shit behind. This is the 7 Deadly Controversies in Anime 2020, starting off with Wrath. The date is the 11th of January, and while the virus was, unbeknownst to most of us, already brewing, the year had started off fresh, and people had peacefully returned back to the work after celebrating the holidays with their friends and loved ones. New year, new me, new possibilities, a chance to start fresh from any struggles of 2019. There is no way this could be a bad year. Thought absolutely no one. And no, it is not because of the anime controversy I'm about to mention, nor is it about the virus, which as I stated hadn't really taken off yet, but because the year had already started with a boom. Literally. A boom which caused the internet to explode with talk about World War III. And by that, I of course mean that half the people were putting on a nervous smile as they tried to convince themselves that won't happen, right? While the other half was sitting on the internet trying to decide what caption they wanted to put on those smiles. But about a week later, wrath was rising from those very people on the internet as a show unlike none before it aired for the first time. Ishizoka Reviewers is an anime which looked at the very popular yet stagnating genre of ecchi and then went, the story follows a bunch of dudes in a fantasy world of monster girls and monster guys who like to hold hands with pretty women. And one day the main character gets the bright idea of, what if we go to all the different brothels and then review how good the different monster races are at hand-holding? And then the series decides to show very intricate scenes of the hand-holding every episode, whereas the people at home have their hands occupied with hand shaking. What's that? That's called hentai? No, this is not a hentai. This show has plot. And a good story. While it might seem like a shameless show based on over-the-top fan service with no substance, and while yes, it did make us all question where the thin line between anime and hentai really goes, it did provide a legitimately interesting story where the political sphere is dictated by how the different races view each other. And as the Ishizoka Reviewers reviews grow in popularity, the political climate sways with it, to the point where the different races are now lining up to be reviewed for the political clout that comes with it. Now you might think to yourselves, okay, so it was basically borderline hentai. It probably got a lot of backlash, which it did, so I get where the wrath of sensitive people is coming from regarding this topic. But no, that's not it at all. You see, the angriest people ended up being the ones who liked the show. Let me explain. Funimation was the streaming company who got the rights to the Ishizoka Reviewers license and were thereby responsible for the distribution of the show to the Western world. But after just one episode, they went, This is sexist, we're gonna take it down because we do not support this kind of content, and then stop the distribution of the show while holding on to the license. To which the rest of the internet responded with, "You can't take this from us." And yes, that's how you sound. And thus the anarchy pursued. The community was in total chaos and the meme economy was booming, until one man rose up to take the lead. Enter Nuxtaku. I'm sure most of you know who Nuxtaku is, so I'm not gonna go into much depth about him. Just know that he plays one of the biggest roles in the anime meme community and that he has a very loyal fan base. And what he did was basically that he directed all the chaos towards my anime list and asked his fans to rate Ishizaka reviewers a max score to the point where it becomes the most popular show on the site of all time. And he succeeded. Not only did this fuel the internet's fire even more, but Mal started fighting back and tried to cancel this movement, as well as push down the show from its newly claimed throne. It was a war zone, and if this was the true World War III of 2020, then I am damn proud I fought for my justice. Like, I swear to God, the release of Ishizaka reviewers is what happens when... Like, you know that one friend who just refuses to watch anime because everything that is cartoon is for children? This is what happens when that person gets in charge of which show airs where, like, oh, it's cartoon. Put it on Cartoon Network or some shit, I don't care. Now, before we move on to the next controversy, I would like to send off Wrath with a poem. It was as peaceful as it could be, then came the threats of World War III. But instead the anime viewers fought for the handhold reviewers, and the best girl was definitely Majorie. Thank you. Goodbye, Wrath. Staying on the horny train as I move on to gluttony, I have to talk about one of the things that just took the internet by storm this year. And it will come as no surprise to a single one of you when I say, my channel! Please subscribe if you enjoyed the video so far because...
Once again, I am looking for
subscribers.
But now, I got a chest, I got a six-pack, and I am back to tell you that no chest, no sex. So I am back and I'm looking for
subscribers. No, I'm of course talking about the absolute invasion of VTubers. Now, the concept of a VTuber goes way beyond 2020 and was generally speaking popularized by the mother of all, Kizuna Ai, who started her career 2016. The problem until now was that she was practically the only one who actually garnered any traction for a niche Western audience, and while there were countless other VTubers having their own go at the concept in Japan, most of them didn't really stand tall in comparison. But over 4 years, their numbers had grown exponentially, and the Westerners picking up the concept was just something waiting to happen. And as 2020 rolled around the corner, oh boy, were we not ready for what was to come. Enter Project Melody, an English-speaking blue-haired erotic VTuber who started her career right at the turn of the year and got popular for her borderline hand-holding content, who after only a few months decided to take it to the next level and went, I guess I'll porn. To which the anime community responded,
I like where this is going.
But Melody is far from the only one who took off this year. Iron Mouse, Silverveil, and the whole Shoujo project along with many more invaded the Western market and provided content for all the weebs who previously were forced to watch Japanese VTubers. Something I can only imagine being a bunch of weebs, entertaining themselves, as they pretend to know what's going on. Oh my god, I have to show you this VTuber I found. She is so funny. I don't get it. What do you mean you don't get it? I mean, I don't speak Japanese. Yeah, me neither. Then how do you know that she's funny? I mean, it sounded like she was saying something pretty funny. Here, I'll show you this one too. This one is funny because she says the word fuck a lot. Yeah, that is pretty funny. Right? What about this one? What's the fun part about her? Oh, that one's racist. But what were these VTubers actually doing? That's where gluttony comes in, because the answer to that question is everything. From gaming, reaction and commentary all the way to music, porn and Pokemon? It seemed as though there were really nowhere to go without there being at least a handful of VTubers recommended to you. Except for, I guess, the makeup part of YouTube, but that's quite self-explanatory. But I mean, hey, I wouldn't mind having Miku Hatsune telling me how to apply makeup using the Cyberpunk character creation tool.
Let's start by putting some foundation on the ball.
Not everyone was happy about this, with some people even being worried that this was another industrial attack on YouTube, where big companies were once again going to battle YouTubers for views and in turn paychecks, since most of the big VTubers were actually just employees for big companies. As entertaining as these VTubers are, a lot of them are just actors behind cute avatars who are given a predetermined persona to satisfy audiences of different dere tastes and having them do whatever is popular rather than producing original content. And that is understandable when you, for example, look at the amount of traction Melody got in the porn scene, where the porn actors actually felt uneasy about the subject considering the fact that Melody is ultimately not real. And I'm of course talking about the physical body, not the person behind the voice. Now, I don't think that any porn actors actually felt that what Melody did was something wrong, but when you take into consideration the fact that the second a porn actor decides to get into the porn business, which mind you, is still a very taboo profession even today, that is a decision which can scar these people for life, since it's significantly harder for these people to get a job or even live a normal life with all the prejudice which is put on them. So when from nowhere a 3D model with a human voice behind it appears and makes more money than they ever could without even risking any of the repercussions they do, it's understandable that they might get a bit scared that they might have to find a new job, which as I said, is harder for them to do. Luckily for them, at the end of the day, it seems like not a lot of people actually went into doing this, and Melody seems to be the only one who actually went anywhere with it, so ultimately this blew over quite quickly. To be honest, the stigma around porn actors is quite ridiculous in my opinion, and this is why I'm happy to see news like Crunchyroll selecting former Jav actress turned cosplayer Shibuya Kaho as judge for the Anime Awards 2021. Now, I would like to send off the Gluttony VTubers with a haiku performed by none other than Sakura Miko herself. Moving on to Lust, we get into a bit more of a serious topic. The manga writer Tatsuya Matsuki, who is the co-creator of the manga Act Age, which was published in Shonen Jump since 2018, was arrested for indecent acts on a teenage girl and discovered on surveillance cameras about an hour later he did it again on another underaged individual. The news came as a shock to all of us, and his manga was dropped immediately, including the cancellation of the anime adaptation of the series, which had been announced a bit earlier. Shortly after the allegations, Shueisha themselves came out with a statement saying, "From the editorial department, we would like to inform you that the news report about this is taken very seriously. We will take appropriate actions after confirming the facts. We sincerely apologize for any inconvenience and concern this may cause to our readers and others involved." While the cancellation is understandable, people were not completely satisfied with the statement left by Shueisha, since it didn't really directly condemn his actions. And since Shueisha has a record of giving blanket statements to authors in the past who have done arguably worse things than Tatsuya Matsuki and then rehiring them after the storm blows down, understandably people were unsure as to how seriously they were actually going to take this. Now, for example, they did this with the guy who wrote the famous food manga. No, the other one. Yeah, that one. In the past, the author of Toriko, Mitsutoshi Shimabukuro, was arrested for paying a minor for sex, and furthermore, the author of Rurouni Kenshin, Nobuhiro Watsuki, was also arrested but for possession of child pornography. Both of these authors were given minor sentences and were later rehired by Shueisha after serving said sentences. And to paraphrase Shueisha's response to the situations, they pretty much said that they were saddened by the event but that they might still work again in the future. So... yeah. I think it's good to mention that the writer of Act Age has been convicted for his actions, but that his sentence, much like the previously mentioned, might be significantly reduced on good behavior. To end this on a slightly more positive note, the artist of Act Age, who was sadly affected by her partner's ill deed, is bouncing back into the industry with a newly released one-shot, so good luck to her. To send off the controversy of Lust, I will rewrite Shueisha's statement so that it better fits their track record, and I will do so with a Roses Are Red poem. Roses are red, violets are blue. Go to jail, pedo. Let's work again soon. I'm fucking horrible. Pride, oh pride. Can you smell it? Someone's feeling good about themselves. You wanna know who? Then come a bit closer. Yeah, that's it. Just a little bit closer. It's Crunchyroll. You thought I was gonna scream, didn't you? Oh, just you wait when you least expect it. Crunchyroll played a huge part in 2020 for the anime community with the announcement that they were about to change the industry as we know it with their brand new and shiny Crunchyroll Originals. This came as a surprise following the absolute clown fiesta, which was the announcement of High Guardian Spice a few years back. An announcement which had the entire anime community collectively come together to say that this was not what we wanted. And for the first time in history, everyone in the anime community could collectively agree on who was the worst girl. It was all of them. All of them. Fast forwards to today and there still hasn't been a word about what happened to the production of that show. Instead, Crunchyroll shifted gears and proudly announced to the world that they were going to give the anime community what they actually wanted. Anime. Woo! Crunchyroll. How did you figure that out? Yes, Crunchyroll was no longer just going to be distributing anime to the West, but also produce their own shows. For real this time. And thus they released not one, not two, but 3 original series this year in collaboration with Webtoons, where all the 3 shows were based on popular mangas written by 3 South Korean authors. It's actually called manhwa when you write it in a scroll down Korean comic style. No one cares that it's called manhwa. Now shut up and enjoy your anihue adaptation, you pundit pricks. A lot of criticism towards High Guardian Spice was the fact that many subscribed to Crunchyroll to support the original Japanese creators and anime production companies. With the announcement of High Guardian Spice, people were pissed about the fact that they felt that their subscription money was used to fund Western studios that they ultimately did not care about and who essentially created a product people did not even consider to be anime at all. With a collaboration with Webtoons, Crunchyroll showed that they had listened to the feedback. And while the animes are technically based on manhwas, Webtoons is a platform which is enjoyed to a great extent by the manga and anime community. And on top of that, the animes are produced by Japanese animation studios, with the original language being Japanese, performed by professional Japanese voice actors. That along with the original art styles being adapted to have a more anime look while still keeping true to its original art style. And while the anime community was generally quite pleased with the product given to them, the manhwa community came together with an astounding, "This isn't what we wanted." Because while yes, the anime only watchers went into these shows blind and found enjoyment for what they were, these shows were heavily critiqued by the manhwa community for being rapidly paced, especially for The God of High School, which supposedly had been stripped of any substance regarding the plot in general. So in the end, I guess this just turned out to be another case of you should have read the manhwa. Now, the Crunchyroll originals is something I would like to make a video about in the future, so I won't go into details about the shows themselves, and I have yet to watch Noblesse. And yes, that's how it's pronounced, because there's a Swedish chocolate called that, and it's damn good, so don't you dare say I'm wrong. But to quickly give my opinion on the matter, I am personally pro these shows, and I would love to see Crunchyroll do more of these in the future. And while none of the shows garnered an as massive impact as I think Crunchyroll wished for, I personally enjoyed what I saw and would therefore like to send my controversy of pride off with an elegant phrase. And then they had to go and fucking ruin it! I told you I was gonna scream when you least expected it. Oh my fucking god, kill me. Like, do you have any idea how long it took for me to script, record, and edit that part, and then defend the whole controversy in the end, knowing exactly what the next topic was going to be? Like, sometimes you just don't know, dude. Like, early December, Sony announced that they were going to be buying Crunchyroll. Now, Sony's already the owner of Funimation and Aniplex, and thus worries about what the future of Crunchyroll was going to be like arose, as well as worries about monopoly amongst anime streaming platforms. Different people subscribe to different streaming platforms based not only on supply, but for personal reasons as well. Like how many choose Funimation because they're not happy with certain controversies revolving around Crunchyroll, like for example the ones I mentioned in the last segment, and same goes for Crunchyroll watchers when it comes to Funimation controversies like the ones I mentioned in the beginning. That alongside with the fact that Funimation has a history of censoring, changing translations from the original text, and rewriting jokes, which when criticized by fans, they responded with, "That's sexist because our translators are women." Good one, Funimation. I bet you changed the original translation of that joke as well. However, shortly after, it was announced that not only would both streaming platforms be working under Sony, but they would merge. And that's where fans of Crunchyroll got really scared for the future of their platform. Since Funimation is already established under and run by Sony, Crunchyroll is undoubtedly gonna be the little brother with no say in anything. Since Crunchyroll was revered for being the freer platform, the mere thought of having Funimation's censorship forced upon them is really off-putting to many. Like, what Sony's doing is basically adopting a stepbrother to Funimation and then going, "No kiss." But stepbro, it's okay. We're not related by blood. But I'm only 14. Shh. Now, no one is really sure about the future of Funnyroll, including Crunchyroll themselves, who when asked pretty much just answer with, I don't know, you ask me. Yes, We are asking you. What is going to... You ask me, dude. I don't think that's how you say you ask me. So I guess we have to see about that in the future. And as I alluded to in the beginning, the future of Crunchyroll Originals is also unknown at this point. Now the second season of the shows are already in production, so we can expect to at least get a season 2 of them. But beyond that, there's really no knowing whether or not they will be cancelled, nor if they're going to be able to invest in producing new ones beyond that in the future. So yeah. To say goodbye to the controversy of greed, I will leave you with a greedy wish of my own. When you merge Crunchyroll with Funimation, please, oh please, rename yourself Funnyroll. Because that would really tickle my Funnyroll, if you know what I mean. I mean, with a name like that, you could even go into hentai streaming and put up Ishizuka reviewers again. Now, I think it's good if we all take a break and talk about a bonus controversy, which did not make the list, but every show needs a beach episode, and this controversy is it. It was a controversy which was talked about extensively for a whole week. Maybe 2. She's short, she's smug, she has an annoying as fuck voice, Senpai! Her chonkers are big badonkers, she's off age, and you're a pedo if you like her. Wait, what? Yeah, you know it, the best worst girl of the year, Uzaki-chan. Did you know that Twitter was kind enough to fix Uzaki-chan's model so that she looks normal now? No, not that one. Not that one either. Nope. 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 Getting better. Pretty good, but still not it. There we go. But wait, there's still something missing. Perfection. Now this is a controversy which is so stupid it should have ended with the fact that her snaggletooth is skin colored, but instead the internet was up in arms because if you like big boobed women of age, you are still a pedo. Or at the least a sexist. I'm so sick of this year. And why, you might ask? Because she's short, and do you know who else is short? Children. I can honestly not believe that this topic became a controversy at all to begin with. I mean, they were basically using 2 arguments. Either people were saying she was a sexualized child, or that she was an over-sexualized characterization of a woman who was made to live up to the male fantasy of what a woman should be, according to those pesky demons with funny rolls between their legs. And they used this fueled hatred to attack companies who used Uzaki-chan as promotional material for things like charities. Let that sink in for a moment. They were actually trying to stop a promotion for blood donations because of a PNG they did not like, which wasn't hurting anyone. Anyhow, the show was painfully mediocre and the whole thing was kind of forgotten about somewhere mid-through airing. And as for the sexist complaints about the over-sexualization of women in her design, that was quickly disproven by Shibuya Kaho, who I mentioned earlier, who cosplayed her. And she has huge badonkers, and she's only 151 centimeters tall. Or 4 feet 11 if you're one of those people who can't use measurements correctly. To make us all happy, I will let Uzaki-chan send off this beach episode herself through a hentai I found of her. Hi.
Hi. Me never fucked up. Me never fucked up before front on a cam. And you've balls to do shit with me? Sure. I'll show you balls. And stay see this cat.
What? It is time for sloth, and boy, is it a lazy one indeed. Australia. Oh, you poor upside down country. We don't usually hear a lot of news from Australia, but when we do, it's either because the country is on fire or because they're setting themselves on fire. In this case, it's the movement against hentai. Now this topic is quite extensive if you go into great depths with all the legal stuff that went on, and if you want to get a full deep dive on the events, I strongly suggest that you go over and watch Joey the Anime Man's video about this. And I mean, he has a great understanding about the whole shenanigans since he is half upside down himself. But to give you the short version, a bunch of big guys decided that the country would ban any and all hentai related content from being imported, sold or displayed in all of Australia. And why? You ask me, dude. The arguments used was pretty much the same arguments people have been doing for games forever. Games cause violence because there is violence in games. Which, as we know, is not true and has been disproven time and time again. They couldn't win that argument with movies, they couldn't win that argument with games, so they went to do the same with hentai instead, where seemingly the only reason they could win is because there was not really any opposition to the argument at all, considering this is mainly an issue within the Japanese industry, who couldn't really give two fucks about what Australia does about the subject. This was practically the equivalent of Australia losing in a sport and then going, we can't lose if there's no players on the other side of the field, yet in the end, they still came out looking like the losers. So as you might understand, their arguments was basically, there are rape scenes in anime and hentai and moral degeneration of women in hentai. That means that the consumers must be sexist, rapists, or pro these topics, and to an extent I guess pedos, because there's the whole lolly thing going on as well. And I mean, you don't need me to tell you that this is just not the case. And to make matters worse, do you know what one of the references they were using was? Go on, have a guess. Which horrible monstrosity of a show do you think someone had to suffer through to get a source to make these claims? To be able to create a case for banning all hentai in the entire country? None other than Sword Art Online. Are you fucking kidding me? Oh, I don't know if I should laugh or cry. Like, this video, it's just getting the best of me. Like, I'm so tired. Oh, it's like the worst thing is that I can almost sympathize with them, but for the completely wrong reasons. Judging by the people who made this decision, it's painfully obvious that none of them actually knows what they're talking about. Like, none of them actually watched the show. They didn't. I swear to God, they did not watch the show. Like, I can just imagine everyone sitting in court and someone gives the judge a note and it's like, a friend of a friend's niece was watching an anime the other day, and at the dinner table he said that Sword Art Online had a plotline where a woman got raped in a virtual world, and the judge just went, well, I don't know who this anime guy is, but it says so on the paper, so let's just ban him. Now, I understand that whoever actually watched the show for reference must have suffered a lot. Like, I get it. They had to watch Sword Art Online. I would have fucking killed myself if I was the one who had to go through that. But I guess then they would have banned suicide as well. But at the end of the day, this just comes off as a lazy job done by people who have no idea what they're even talking about. Man, if my joke in the beginning of the video about COVID being a weeb is true, then there's no wonder it left Australia. I shall send off Australia, the controversy of sloth, with another haiku. A real one this time. Watched Sword Art Online. Now we'll ban all the hentai. Let's watch some cuties. Come on everybody, I brought a VPN because we banned that too. I'm so good at my job. Finally, we end with envy. The last deadly controversy on the list. At the end of the year, it was announced that the author of Boruto's dad's son was stepping down, being replaced by none other than the author of Boruto's dad's son's dad's rival side bitch's cock. Yes, none other than Kishimoto Sensei himself. The original creator for the franchise was going to come back to continue his legacy after failing to reach commercial success with his new show about Boruto's dad's cousin twice removed in a parallel universe where they were samurais instead of ninjas. While it saddens me to see Kishimoto Sensei being unsuccessful in writing something completely different from what he did for a decade and a half, this actually came as a shock to me, who was hoping to see him continue trying until he could break that mold and create another great story. This made me think that it must be very difficult for him to live a creative life with the pressure from the fan base which has followed him for his whole life, as he created one of the world's most critically acclaimed mangas of all time, a manga that so many in the manga/anime community grew up with. To me, this reeked of defeat and disappointment from our beloved mangaka, a feeling that Naruto is all he was ever going to be. Now, I think it is very important for me to state that I have genuinely got no idea what is going on Kishimoto's mind, or what the deal behind the switch even was to begin with. This is just speculations I have regarding the topic, since we don't really know that much at all. And I think that it's especially important for you to know when we move on to the bit controversial part. That part being the fact that despite Kishimoto Sensei being the creator and owner of this franchise, and despite the fact that Boruto as a character was created by Kishimoto Sensei himself, the story of Boruto does not belong to him. And thus, he should not have the right to just take that from Ukyo Kodachi, the current writer of the manga. But the issue with this whole controversy is, as I mentioned earlier, we don't really know the circumstances behind this switch. For all we know, maybe Kodachi-sensei didn't want to continue writing this series anyways. Maybe he wanted to move on to something else, and Kishimoto, who is currently not serialized, offered to take over while he works on a potential new series. Boruto airs monthly, so it's a good deal for Kishimoto to continue writing on Boruto to keep a stable income while still having some time to work on new projects. It is completely understandable that looking from the outside, the whole situation comes off as Kishimoto failing with his new project, leading to him taking over Boruto and kicking out Kodachi through his authority over the franchise, but as it stands, we simply just do not know. And because this is such an unclear and ongoing controversy, if you can even call it that, I will not send it away. You can stay. And that is where I'm going to end this video. This video is already long enough, so I will keep the outro brief for you. Thank you all so much for watching. Let me know in the comments what you think about these controversies or which controversies stood out to you the most this year. Also, feel free to leave a like if you enjoyed this video, maybe subscribe if you haven't already. And if you hated the video, then that's cool. No, if you hated the video, feel free to smash that dislike button. But remember that my real name is Nuxtaku. No, I remain nameless for now. I hope you all have a great 2021, and perhaps this year we'll be rid of any controversies. It has already begun, hasn't it? See you, Nara. Bye, you, Nara.